healing. So as Desiree mentioned about colorism, this is kind of where it starts, right? Even before birth, So my mom's side is very much mestizo. That's the Mendoza Javier, and they're pretty much in the Bulacan, which is not too far from Manila, which is the main city. And my grandfather's grandmother was from Spain. And then you'll see my dad's side. They're more from northern part of the Philippines and really have that indigenous features that you can see in this picture. And so I think that even just growing up, I know that I was definitely, I always felt like it was proud in a way, like almost now I'm like kind of feeling guilty, but that was part of growing up, that I was very light skinned and have that mestizo look, and that was always something that was admire, recognize, but of course now it kind of helped, didn't realize I wasn't honoring all of my ancestors. In this case, I had, the indigenous side of my ancestors. Um, but the other part that I want to make sure that, when people kind of come back at you and this whole piece, well, I don't see color. So it's like, okay, well, yeah, let's talk about not colorism, but I don't see color. So color blindness is just as bad, or not healthy in a way, so because then that's also not recognizing that we do have different color, we do have different complexion. And so that's just dismissing in terms of almost saying like, well, racism doesn't exist, and so color blindness is, also an issue. And so one, you be careful about, when you hear these type of comments, and kind of recognize this. It's like, oh, that's interesting, that that you don't see color. I mean, as much as you are, I think you're trying to say that you respect other people, but by just saying that you don't see color, it's almost not recognizing the dignity of that other person, which, I'm actually proud that I'm Filipino, or proud, that my complexion is brown and not not white or not black, but I have to embrace kind of my own color. And then again, making that point, colorism, then you don't want to go the other side of like being colorblind either. So the colonial mentality that Desiree mentioned earlier, pretty much, again, being educated up until 14 in the Philippines, you'll see this kindergarten picture that I have. It's like, what do you notice about all the dolls that we brought to school? They were all white dolls. I don't even know that there were any brown skinned dolls that I grew up with. I mean, at least now there's a few more choices, here in, in the US. But it's kind of amazing as I look back at the pictures. Um, and I think also Desiree mentioned earlier that, you know, light skin associated with classism. And so when you look at this class picture that I have, I think I was 9 years old in this one, a lot of lighter skin kids, right? So, and this is where that reinforces, middle class, upper class, um, going to private school, mostly fair skinned. And then I went to a Catholic school, and all the nuns at this Catholic school I went to were all white, and so it just, that's kind of part of where early education already being exposed to that part of it. Um, I'm not, I think that part of the whole emphasize that what Desiree was talking about, just in terms of the colonial mentality, I wanted to just kind of add that other piece. If you're really interested in this one, um, there's a lot of great Filipino psychologists who write about it. And so this is one book, Brown Skin, White Minds, is a great book. And so this is, and I'm not going to lecture you guys, but this is a study that he was doing just in terms of how that feeling inferior, having shame, even within group discrimination, and then our physical characteristic, how it impacts our self-esteem, our self-identity, and then of course, kind of leading that to depression. And then, so this is just kind of, I wanted to just show you guys the psychology behind this. And then again, wanted to emphasize that if you want to learn a little bit more about how this impacts us, there are great books. And I do, like Desiree, have resources as well that I want to share. So, with regards to faith and religion, is almost kind of, again, that's another area where it's emphasized. So I laugh when I saw this graphic about Santa Claus of the Philippines. It's like, okay, Santa Claus of the Philippines is also white. Jesus is always portrayed as white. Santo Nino, which is something that's really strongly practiced in the Philippines. These are images of Santo Nino, also white. And so again, for us, whiteness has been depicted as part of being good. And and that's kind of another one of those, we get it from all side education, even in our faith, in our religion, and even Christmas, because that's a holiday celebration that we all have embraced. And so the other part I think is important, that the whole other mentality is, and this is just an old picture. So when the US kind of took us on, there's this policy that was written that was called a benevolent assimilation. So really the whole mindset back then, it was, there's all these brown people, and actually they referred to us as little brown people, that we needed taking care of, that we couldn't take care of ourselves. So we needed to be protected and taken under their wing. And so this was America being benevolent and really helping us to become Americanized. And so it even started then, that whole philosophy that they had. So I wanted to just kind of add that part of the history. And so I immigrated here when I was 14. So this is me at 14 at the airport. And what's interesting is that when I came here, so junior high, is, first time I kind of experienced racism was being referred to as fresh off the boat. So FOB, and I couldn't really understand it. It's like, why are people saying that? And I didn't even really know that that was racist, until my friend was saying, well, that's for people who just came here. Um, and so, but then I said, like, well, why is it fresh off the boat? I came by plane, not by boat, So, I mean, it's like it didn't make sense to me, but that was kind of the term. And so my friend, who was kind of helping me deal with this, said, well, just ignore them, tell them thank you. I said, well, why would I say thank you if you just told me it's a negative thing to be called fresh off the boat or FOB or FOB? Well, just tell them that you didn't realize that you were a foxy Oriental broad. It's like, okay, well, that sounds good, you know. But then, of course, later on, I realized, after learning a little bit more, Oriental is actually not politically correct, either. But back then, this was 1978. Well, yeah, we migrated 1974, but so in high school, 74, 75. Um, and so the other part that I wanted to tell you, and this is where you can have this conversation with your parents. My mom, before we left the Philippines, signed me up for a speech class. And why do you think that was? So she paid extra money. We were had already planned to migrate to the Philippines. This was around the time that there was martial law in the Philippines, and so my parents thought, oh, it's a good time to get out. Let's just go ahead and move to the Philippines already. So I signed up for a speech class because my mom wanted to make sure before we came to the U.S. that I did not have any accent. And so I think that this is where that conversation with your parents, especially depending on if your parents are first generation immigrants, is that what was it like? What is it like for them, and how people treat them, when they speak English with Filipino accent? Because I know some of my friends and other people I interact, especially when I was, going around with my parents, who had very strong Filipino accent. It was like, speak, and they're speaking English, and then people are telling them speak English. It's like, well, they are speaking English. Or when my dad was in the hospital and they're already talking to me instead of talking to him. It's like, when he does speak English, but they couldn't understand him because of his accent. And so I just became that language broker. And because people just didn't have the patience to really listen, to him, and he spoke English. And again, this is that other way of being ashamed of, even, I mean, we learn English in the Philippines, and that's part of our education. Was actually, we in the all our classes were all in English. And one of my teachers even penalize us. I think we had to pay a quarter um, every time that we spoke Tagalog in class, because they wanted us to make sure that we spoke English in the classroom. And this was in the Philippines, and so, but then again, there is that whole Filipino accent that a lot of your parents, a lot of your aunts, some of that kind of gets added to some of their experience. And so I think that not realizing some of the microaggression that they experience with regard to their accent is something that they're probably kind of in denial and not recognizing, that is a racism that they're experiencing, and they're just not recognizing that. Um, and so I wanted to kind of, I love Brene Brown's quote, because that's what one of the things that I teach. And so, what's the greater risk? Letting go of what people think, or letting go of how I feel, what I believe in, and who I am. And so I think that everything else that I'll be talking about is that whole emphasizing that whole point. So here we are. I go to college, UC Irvine, 18. And so I actually, in my mind, actually, I grew up, when we first moved here, was in Carson, a lot of Filipinos there. So Banning High School, Wilmington area, strong Filipino community. So UCI at the time, this was 1978, mostly white. And there was only maybe about 10 or 12 of us Filipinos who were attending UCI. Now it's like a ton of Filipinos, and Nico can tell you that. But, but for me, it was, when I went in, to UCI, it was like, okay, well, I really want to be Americanized, because that was the expectation. So I joined a white sorority. So the whole time I was there, I was the first and only Filipina the entire 4 years. I was at UCI. And as much as I love that experience, it was really very glaring for me, just in terms of how different I felt. And so this is kind of one of those paradox that we all kind of navigate through. So I was also in the Filipino club, and I was, as Nico mentioned earlier, the president of the Filipino club, I think my sophomore year ish, junior year, maybe sophomore year, don't remember now. Um, but so I was having this double identity, in the sense that I don't think any of my sorority sisters knew I was super involved in the Filipino club. It wasn't something I was ashamed of, but I also didn't share it, so, and then with my UCI Kababayan Filipino friends, they, kind of accepted me, but I was also the only one at the time who joined a white sorority. So they couldn't figure out, well, why are you a member of that? Like, why, but they loved me anyway. But I was always kind of like that outlier, for them, who was kind of having this double identity. And so that was kind of like one of those struggle, I think, just and especially at that age, right? 18, it's like, who am I really actually didn't even know what it meant to be Filipino American. And so, and I didn't really kind of start realizing there was such a rich history about Filipinos in America until my brother, who's 1 year younger, who ended up going to UC Berkeley, and he had Asian American studies there. I did not at UCI at the time. Like I said, there was none of that. And so then I started reading, and this is kind of a way for me to figure out, what was that, like, who do I want to be, and or to become even, right? Because at that time I still wasn't a US citizen yet, because I had only been here in the US for about 4 years. um, so I think it's that whole kind of going back and forth about this idea of, trying to fit in, but fitting in was like, I felt like I was hustling for my worth, and then this whole authentic belonging is really what I was striving for. I wanted to be recognized for who I am, and to belong to a community where I felt loved and I belonged. And so I think that whole shifting to try to go from trying to fit in, and that's kind of where, at that age, kind of where a lot of you are, is that whole, trying to fit in. But really, it's really what we're striving for is that love and belonging of being your authentic self. And so this is something that I've kind of struggled with at that time. And I think that kind of over the years, sort of evolved and kind of figure that out. But depending on kind of the setting, there's still a little bit of that surface. So for me, again, true belonging is about being vulnerable, being getting uncomfortable, and being present with the people without sacrificing who you are. And I think that at that time I was doing a little bit of both, you know. And again, it was a great experience being in that white sorority, but there was a lot of sacrifice as well, and because I wasn't being my authentic self. Um, and then with the Filipino club, it's like, again, I could be a little bit more my authentic self, but then I still had to explain kind of like why I liked being in the white sorority. Um, so you are only free when you are realized that you belong no place, you belong every place, no place at all. The price is high, the reward is great. And this is a Maya Angelou quote that I love. Because really, but what she's saying is that belonging to yourself is probably more important than trying to belong to any of these other groups. And so that's something that, kind of work towards kind of integrating that in myself. So here I am at USC, School of Social Work. So another kind of, yeah, great accomplishment to be accepted into that. But here's the rub on this one, right? Because then I actually kind of, my parents couldn't figure out, why did you want to major in social ecology, social work? So this was that whole model minority of expectation of your parents that, you have to be engineer, which my brother was, or both my parents are accountants, so that's math. My sister became an accountant, and then one of my other brothers computer science, and here I am, UCI social ecology, USC social work, you know and this is like something that, kind of breaking some of that expectation. And so part of this whole model minority myth is something that a lot of us have bought into. Again, this is one of those policies that's come out in kind of pitting one group of, over the others, like, oh well, why can't blacks be more like the Asians who are successful doing this? It's like, that's really kind of part of how we've sort of created that divide, and we sort of bought into that. And so, and this is where a lot of us kind of fell into some of that stereotype that people have. So we need to kind of break it, and really understand a little bit more about that. So again, there's a ton of books and that's been written about the model minority myth and how that adds into this whole, us not being a great ally, with the Black community or other communities. As well. The other piece I think that's important, that, when I was talking about being a social worker, so I happen to also have specialized in social work in healthcare. So my first job in a hospital setting was in a hospital downtown LA, a lot of Filipino nurses. And so the first few months I was there, they didn't even know I was Filipino. First of all, the hospital at the time had a racist policy that you can't speak any other language while you're working other than English. So it was like the English only policy. And so I couldn't speak English, right? But then I also did not have the heavy accent that a lot of the Filipino nurses that who I was working with, who happened to be, at the time, remember this was like 80s, first generation immigrants. And so so a lot of them, like when they realized I was Filipino, I even had that sort of reaction from Filipinos themselves and said, "You're a Filipina, but you're not a nurse." And so, yes, I'm not, because I wanted to be a social worker. And so, kind of even just that whole questioning, how can I be Filipino if even my career choice, was didn't reflect, kind of what that model minority needed to be. And if you wanted to figure out why there are so many Filipino nurses, there's a social political history behind that. And there's actually a great video that talks about it. And I can put that link or information. So if you're curious, if you have family members who are nurses, then maybe they didn't even realize there's a history behind the political history behind how there's a lot of Filipino nurses. So part of the whole piece is really unlearning and relearning about the unconscious bias. Because really for me, and I still get this, it's like we're always going to be, or this forever foreigner. I don't know how many of you get asked that question about where are you from. They're not asking about where are you from, like Southern California, or that. A lot of some of that question is about, because you look different, you look, you don't look white, you don't, you look something else, that that you have to be from somewhere else. So even if you say, well, I'm from California, but really, where are you from? I think, well, if you're asking for my ethnicity, I am Filipino, but I am from California. So there's a funny video that talks about this microaggression, people are always asking us, where are you from? So again, that whole feeling that we don't belong here, that we're forever foreigner, it impacts our mental health and our self-esteem. So that whole microaggression, stereotype, implicit bias, I'm not going to go over that, but those are some of the key things that I was talking about. Again, after a while, all of these mm, microaggression kind of just impacts our mental health and self-esteem. So I also wanted to kind of let you know, in high school, my name is Ernalyn. As you can see, it's difficult to pronounce. And so in high school, I ended up with the nickname Ernie. And so this year, I finally decided to reclaim it. And forever, that's kind of the nickname I went by. My dad passed away in April, and I finally realized, it's like, you know what, this is really not honoring my parents, because my parents went out of their way to mash up their names, Ernesto, Lydia, to create my name. And so I wrote this email to everybody. This is a copy of the email that I sent out to people at work, all my colleagues, professors, other professors at USC, all my friends, put it on my Facebook. And even my husband had a hard time. It's like, you want me to call you Ernie now? It's like me, like he was asking if I was going to require him also. It's like, yes, of course. And so he also had a hard time, switching from calling me Ernie to switching back to my real name, my given name, Ernal Ann, because then again, it's that whole, I didn't want my name to be anglicized. I really wanted to reclaim my identity, which in this case, my name. And so that was important for me. Um, and so part of my whole racial healing, I've and mentioned earlier, I've been, volunteered with other nonprofit organization. I've mentored other people of color to try to take on leadership position, coach them as well. And so this picture on the left side, there we're all, we were all past, present. President of the California Breastfeeding Coalition, and so really trying to mentor them. I'm also on the picture on the right side. I'm also involved with the leadership education for Asia Pacific. And so really helping other Asian Pacific take on leadership. So if you want to see kind of where some of those racial barrier happens, you want to question, like, as successful as we think Asians are, when you look at leadership position and board position, we're not there, because then there's this bamboo ceiling that keeps us out of, kind of being up there. And so my mission is to try to get more people, and help them in those leadership positions. So lots and lots of books. I do audiobooks all the time, so these are just a partial collection, of that I have. So wanted to, and so I'm really looking at perspective, from the white perspective, from the black perspective, the Asian perspective, everything, because I just kind of want to process it and start looking at kind of where I am. um so again, this is really about choosing integrity. It takes a lot of courage to get out of your comfort zone, to start kind of questioning, where some of these thinking and how we're thinking comes from. And then why it matters, really, because a lot of people of color are being highest impact of COVID-19, all the health disparities, this happens, and the, policing, all of that. So we have to dig deep, and really address oppression and all of this. And so, kind of being held accountable for racism and feeling shame is not the same as being shamed. So again, we need to hold ourselves accountable. And so when Desiree talked about, calling in people, is just inviting them to have some conversation about their own experience of microaggression. And because then that will then make them think about, what was it like for them. So then really the call to action is to stop racism. And then I'm going to end here to say, do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better, right? So this is what both Desiree and I really, our message is kind of start somewhere to be an ally, start somewhere to start that racial healing that we need to do. So thank you, everyone. So again, actually wanted to add this whole indigenous land acknowledgement. So this is, where we all live. Another addition, another indigenous group has been oppressed because of what's happened to them. So I just want to I just add this on my slide just to educate people as well. So lots of resources, and we'll be sharing that in the email. Thank you, everybody. That's it for me.
Thank you, Dr. Ernalyn. Wow, can we give a round of applause to her, to Dr. Ernalyn Navarro, and as well as Desiree for giving us all their attention, their time, dedication, their wisdom on showing us and giving us the tools on how to be anti-racist, how to be an ally, and basically just how to be a better and good human being. So as we are wrapping up, we got a little housekeeping stuff. I'm gonna pass that on. We got surveys. We got another survey. This is a link to let us know how we're doing, and also we're gonna do a raffle. And also, we're going to take a picture, a big group picture at the end. I'm going to pass it on to Tita Mila. She has a lot of closing words for us. So, Tita Mila, if you can unmute yourself, please.
Hello.
Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, let me see. Let me show myself. Oh, where am I? Where am I? Okay. Well, escape or double exit. What's that? Exit. Oh, I am not techie savvy, my dear, so please forgive. But let me say again, well, thank you everybody for being here. And I am really impressed at how good this presentation has come to be. And I would like to congratulate my team and Nico, such a good host. Desiree, beautiful presentation, my dear. And even if I've said, we had a little practice before, I'm still impressed and amazed by your skills and your talent. And as always, Dr. Navarro always has some good insights for us. And if you will please mark it on your calendars, we will have these monthly wellness presentations every month. The next one will be actually on November. Wait a minute. Yes, we have our next one will be November 21. So tune in again in November 21. I hope everybody has sent their emails to us, and so we can update you and send you notifications of when these things are happening. There are several things that we'd like to inform you that this presentation has been a collaboration of three uh, organizations, like we said, the PVFAA, FAMHRC, and the APCTC. So, first of all, with PVFAA, we have a trivia game night on Friday, October 30th. Let me see if I can share a screen a little bit. Can I do that? Do you want to?
Yeah, let me go ahead and let me go ahead and stop
Okay,
share.
let's see if I can do it. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay. Can you see the no designs?
Yeah.
Okay, this is a suicide prevention campaign that the PVFAA and the Resource Center is doing. We will have a trivia game night. The date there is October 23, but we moved it to October 30th, which is next Friday. It's a Friday night live kind of thing. And it's a trivia game night. We will have five $20 gift certificates for raffle. And all we do is have a little game about mental health, and hopefully we can interject a little bit of Filipinx in there. So I'm working with Mary Lou Adriatico on this one. So that is next Friday. And for the rest of the monthly wellness workshops, we will have them beginning November 20, November 21st. We have December 5 for the next one coming up. Okay, so that's the PBFAA. And like I said, the FAMHRC, or the Resource Center, will host this wellness workshop. We call it Ugnayan, every once a month. And the next one will be also, we will be graced, I hope, by another presentation from another young person. And Nicole, I will call on Nicole Dumagindin to tell us more about that project, which we call the Kapwa Kabataan. And then she will introduce Francis as well from APCTC. So take it away, Nicole.
Actually, Tita Mila, I think Nicole's preoccupied, so I'll take it
Oh,
from here.
okay, Francis can
Yeah,
take it. Okay, thank you. Let me
no
see, stop share.
problem.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm learning
So
something about this.
I don't have a slide to share with you guys, but thank you all for coming here, and I just want to shout out to any Kapwa Kabataan interns that came today. So I know Tita Mila gave a little brief intro to it, but if you guys didn't know, we have been working on Kapwa Kabataan, our core team, and so far it's been going really well. We've had a lot of interns join us, and what it is we gathered our core team and we outreach to our community to ask how we can mobilize the Filipino community in Riverside County. And what we came up with is, we should target the youth. So what we did is we developed this Kapwa Kabataan volunteer internship program that we kicked off in September. Yes, that's it. And what we've been doing is we've been destigmatizing mental health discussions within the youth and encouraging them to look into Filipino community topics so they can further enrich themselves in Filipino culture while also caring for the community. After all, care starts with our youth, right? And as I said, we've been doing a really great job. All our interns, all our volunteers have been super creative, super cooperative, and they have so much potential. So we've been so excited in involving them in all our projects, in their own projects. And of course, this particular one that we've had today from Desiree has been a hit, right? So thank you, Desiree, and thank you, Dr. Navarro, for presenting for us today. On another note, we also we have this Kapwa Kabataan for the youth, but we also offer a little something for the parents too, called KITE. And KITE stands for Keeping Intergenerational Ties in Ethnic Families. And what it is we offer workshops as well as classes where between 2 to 4 hours, depending on whether it's virtual or in person. So right now everything's virtual, so it's 8 weeks, right? But it's workshops, one-time workshops or classes for parents to learn about intergenerational gap between them and their children. So today we learned about Black allyship, right? And for some of us, we're children of parents who might not understand what Black allyship means to us, and that could be due to intergenerational gap. And actually, there's a lot of other topics that us Filipino American youth might be passionate about or believe in. However, our parents might understand so much too, right? And that could all be due to intergenerational, intercultural gap. Therefore, we developed the KITE program to kind of educate the parents a little bit on how us Filipino American youth may think and how they can get us to understand their point of view as well. Now, the workshops are for all parents. However, the classes are only limited to Riverside County parents of kids ages 6 to 17. Therefore, if you're between ages 6 to 17 and you want to involve your parents, have them contact me. I'll leave my contact information in the chat box. Or if you want to refer someone else or just spread the information to someone you know that might benefit from it too, have them contact me. Thank you.
Cool. That's great. Thank you so much, Francis, for letting us know about Kappa, Kabataan Youth, as well as Kite. Tita Mila, do you have any more last words to say? Are we getting started with the raffle? Oh, something happened with her. So she hold on. Technical difficulties. Is she back? Hello, she is back. Hopefully. Hello. Oh, Tita Mila, you are muted.
Hi, I'm sorry. I lost power, and so I had to try to get back on in the same page, and it didn't work. But anyway, I think so. We heard from Francis, and did we mention about the survey forms, guys?
Yes, we did. If you haven't already, please go ahead and go to our survey links. It is linked into the chat. We can link it one more time again. So that survey is just let us know how we're doing, how we can do well, how we can better serve you into the future. And if you have seen the sign-in link from me, it's just so you can be entered into the raffle. So I will go ahead and post those again. Is there anything else you want to say, Tita Mila? Oh, she has the raffle.
Okay, are we ready for the raffle?
Actually, I have something one more.
Oh, go ahead, Ellen. What do you have?
Hi everyone. So we're just gonna kindly ask if any of our couple interns are here. If we could ask you guys to please stay just a few minutes after the Zoom, just to be along with us as we debrief. So just a shout out to you guys. Thank you.
Sweet. So we're gonna do a raffle. We're gonna reveal the winner, and then we're gonna go into pictures.
Okay, this is how I try to do this time. We used to have this kind of raffle tickets, but they're so thin, and sometimes I get the same winners all the time. So I thought about using a card, which I get from the mail. This is a deck of cards from the Cheyenne River Indian Kids organization. So what I have done is, this is a full deck of 2 suits. But what I have done is, when as they entered the conference today, I took their names, and then I've assigned a number. So from number 1 to including Jack, Queen and King. Here are the numbers. Alyssa is number 1. Katrina 2. Tayana 3. Jessie 4. Diego is 5. Marissa is 6. Abigail is 7. Adelaide is 8. Ian is 9. Adrian is 10. And John David is Jack. And Kim is Queen. And Kathleen is King. So I will just shuffle it, because I like doing this. And I will pick a number or a card from the middle. So here it goes. All right, that's one. And here's the winner. And what do you see?
We see a 1.
It's ace, number 1. So our winner is Alyssa Moreno. So if you
Congratulations, Alyssa. If you can just go ahead and DM me, or just like
yes,
Nico.
you should send us your email, no, not email address. Send me your mailing address, your postal mail address, and I'll send this $25 Stater Brothers gift card, and you can use it anywhere, of course. So $25 for Alyssa, and congratulations.
Congratulations, Alyssa. I'm sending you a private DM so you can send me your email address.
Okay, right, great. Thank you. Wow.
All right. So
The next
thank
one was
you.
Jack, sorry. Okay, all right then. So let's have a little, oh, what should I say, a word of thanks. And let me ask Nico to give us the final word. And then with an open invitation, you guys, please come back next month. And with the Kapwa interns, we shall be talking more about that. Invite your friends, invite your families, and just let's have some fun. I enjoyed this presentation today, so I hope you did too. Take it away,
Maraming
Nico.
Thank you. Maraming salamat to all our presenters today, Dr. Ernalyn Navarro, to Desiree Perez, as well as our very own Tita Mila Banks. We are also glad to be in collaboration with APTCC, PVFA, as well as FAMRC. Today, we are also going to be taking a huge big group photo. If I can have everyone, for just 1 second, we have stopped recording.